Setnam, offering a discussion about emotions. Take what feels right for you. Take this as a perspective to explore if it resonates. Some of this is my own opinion, my own insights, and a lot of this comes from the book, The Language of Emotions. So again, take what feels right for you and dismiss the rest. You could also take this if you're a pick a card reader fan, maybe you pick a circle here that resonates with you. So what does it mean to feel an emotion? So what is the embodied response of an emotion? How do you know what it feels like to feel sad in your body? What does it feel like to be happy in your body? What do your emotions present in your form? What sensations, what temperatures? How does the heart respond? How do you feel physically? And how do you connect that with an emotion? And to me, emotions are an indicator for change. Not all, some. And some might be an indicator to continue on the course you're at. But when we look at emotional intelligence and when we look at upset, frustration, to me, when there is anger, when there is depression, when there is sadness, it tells me that I need to look at something. And so how are your emotions teaching you to explore something within yourself or within a connection? And I would invite you to reconsider the phrase, "you made me." What if emotions are a choice? What if? And what if you have a choice in how you respond to another human being? And what if you take accountability for your own actions, reactions, and emotions as it relates to another human being in a connection? Just take that on as a possibility to explore. And so now we'll go through some emotions and a question or two with each. And again, take what resonates with you. So hatred. There's an extreme emotion of hate. What does it feel like in your body? Where does it come from? Where does it stem from? What creates that reaction? Like what triggers it within you? How are you deflecting something within yourself? Is something being mirrored back to you that is causing this idea of hatred? And what needs to come into your conscious awareness? What can you consider? What needs to grow? What needs to change? What needs to be seen within yourself from you to you? Anger. For me, anger is about protection. And sometimes I would project anger when something else is underneath of that. Questions to consider: what needs to be restored? What needs to be protected within yourself? So have boundaries been crossed? Is anger, think of like that little dog that barks. Is there something within yourself that's like signaling that you need to stand your ground, or signaling that your needs haven't been met, for example? So how is anger presenting kind of like a stoplight, you know? And on that spectrum of anger, where can you push forward to communicate your needs, to restore a connection? Or is it time? Is there some sort of warning sign to move on? Jealousy. What if that moment that you are jealous is really a frozen aspect of yourself from the past? So what if you're not feeling up to par, that on some level there's some story or some experience that you had that told you you weren't good enough? And so if you're feeling jealous in this moment, how are you trying to one up? How did someone try to one up on you? And how are you judging your own worth externally? And what pains of the past internally are stirring this emotion of jealousy? And how can you find freedom in this moment and see the truth of who you are or this situation for what it is, and not allow the past to really filter your experience of today, to filter this opportunity to love another human being or love yourself. Joy. Can you say yes to life? Can you allow blessings? I don't know about you, but I've spent years battling either fear or depression, worry, woe, and later anger. And the stronger I become and the more that I heal, the more that I feel joy. And what I find interesting here is I'm like, wow, what's this? And so now for me, it's about like allowing that to continue. Allow it to continue and just say, yes, I'm going to step into this possibility of joy. Content. Can you be at peace right here, right now? Like, can this moment, can this connection, can this gift, this opportunity be enough? So there's no past, there's no present, there's no change. It simply is what it is, and allowing that. So just being like, this is good. Right here, right now. Right here, right now. I'm good, you're good, we're good, this is good. This is good. Grief. What are you mourning? And so if you find yourself in some sort of storyline where you keep going back to the same story in the past, what needs to be released? And can you forgive yourself? Can you forgive yourself? And there's, there could be some attachment to one moment, one story of the past that holds you in some sort of like Four of Pentacles energy of like, I'm going to hold tight right here, right now. But really that holding tight is about something that you were mourning in the past that you didn't want to let go of, that you could have been forced to let go of, like on a physical level, but how are you still holding on to it emotionally? And yes, there is, grief is good. Taking that time to cry, taking that time to mourn change. And just notice where those ties of grief are coming in, and what other attachments are associated with that grief. And if you keep spiraling back to one specific story, one specific moment in time that is resurfacing today and presenting in some way of grief and holding, and forgive yourself. Fear. Fear can let us know that there is, that there's a certain amount of fear that's kind of, grabbing. And sometimes there's a point where fear can kind of take over, or I've felt that within myself. And so for me, it's about refocusing attention. So if the dial, the turn signal is one way, when really we could go forward, what makes you want to make the left turn? What makes you want to make the right turn when you could go forward? Okay, so, where's your roadmap of thought? What is your roadmap of thought? And are you spinning in one particular woe, one particular what if? And how is that thought of a what if protecting you from the present? So if we're worried about tomorrow, I mean, just worry about tomorrow. Keep myself busy in my brain about tomorrow. How is that allowing you to protect yourself from some sort of possibility? And so can you find some forgiveness of what had happened in the past that then keeps you fixed in one particular mindset today that is surrounded by fear and anxiety? And how can you start to allow some sense of flow and ease? The thoughts you have about tomorrow can in some way create tomorrow because it creates a narrow mindset. But what if those thoughts and trying to control your thoughts or control some aspect of life, what if that doesn't make tomorrow what it could be? What if it actually inhibits the possibilities of tomorrow? So refocus. Frozen. What captured your attention that you just like put the brakes on? Why did you put the brakes on? And that happens. I've been there. And for me, in this place, I had to physically move. But also asking yourself why? Why did you become fixed? So what really needs to be released from your body, your mind, your spirit? Like what captured your attention so quickly that you stopped in some moment in time and not allowing yourself? It's like emergency brake pull, right? And the brakes got locked up. Well, now we got to go to the mechanic and get that realignment, for example. I know brakes and alignment are not quite the same, but forgive me, maybe that resonates. But what feels overwhelming? So, and then are you budding layers of ice, frozen, kind of, whether it is that mask, this illusion of connection, right? And staying cold to yourself and others. What happens when you start to melt that? Does the internal layers feel overwhelming? So if there's trauma, there might be a need to seek professional help to work through that. And again, for me, movement has been huge in releasing the embodied response to trauma. And I'm still learning and growing, but that it's not quite as fixed as it used to be. And it took physical movement for me to work through it. Sadness. I feel like, it's a natural thing to feel sad. And it's part of grief and mourning. It's kind of like that flow of change. And rather than remaining sad or allowing sadness to move through you, what about seeing the blessings and letting go? What if there is an opportunity on the other side of this feeling? And how can you allow change, that flow, right? That flow. And see that overall bigger picture of what could come next. Suicidal tendencies. And again, if you're having thoughts of suicide, if you are starting to collect things or create a plan, I would highly recommend you reaching out for support. And if you know someone that is having thoughts of suicide, who has crafted a plan on how they'll take their life and gathered the materials, I highly, highly recommend that you find professional support, that you bridge the gap to professional support for another human being to save a life. And if you are there in suicidal thoughts and tendencies, please take the time you need to heal and reach out for support. You have choices. You have choices, and you're needed here. Why do you want to check out? And can you forgive yourself? If you find yourself thinking about leaving, why? Why? And not as in like beating yourself up, but why does that feel like the only answer? And can you forgive yourself and find the freedom to find other choices to live here with us? Lackluster. There's this ho-hum kind of like whatever kind of attitude. Why are you indifferent? Why are you choosing not to choose? Why are you staying in that like midline of not jumping and not swimming, or not, you're not steering the boat, but you're not jumping ship either? Why are you avoiding a choice? And what needs to come to the surface to really allow yourself to feel alive? Are you afraid of changing? Are you afraid of failure? And can you choose life? Can you make a decision to allow joy, to allow your creative energies, to even allow yourself to fail a little bit. Like maybe you try that cookie recipe and the cookies didn't turn out right the first time, but you could try again. Maybe the ingredients need to be changed, or the temperature, the oven, something. So starting to just take some healthy risks and challenge yourself to make some choices and try some things, try some new things. Depression. And for me, and I've heard this too, that depression's like anger turned inward. And so how can you dial out of the inner hole? Or at least for me, when I've been severely depressed, it feels like this big hole, this heaviness. And really, to me, it's like this hibernation period. And you know, there's a point where you can kind of sink in and feel your way out and then grow up, you know, like grow up like a seed, like grows out of the ground, you know, like you can take that hermit mode energy and pause. But there's something different when it starts to hold you so far down that you can't get back up. Like what really, when there is depression, what really needs to change for you to be happy? And how can you start to dial in happiness for yourself, like on a day-to-day, allowing gratitude, allowing appreciation for life, allowing opportunity to smell the roses, to drink that, sip that tea, and listen to the music, listen to the birds. And so how can you start to create some momentum, some movement in your energy and start to recycle the past? And so are you held into the past of what wasn't? So it's almost like grief and sadness so far down to start to see the opportunity for a new seed, see the opportunity to sprout in forgiveness, in love, in joy, in life altogether. So again, what wants to be reborn, and how can you create some momentum, some nurturing energy from you to you? Shame. What has been hurt? Like what hurt so bad that shame has now blanketed and like covered up a part of you from shining your light? And yes, we fumble. We don't always do things right. How can you forgive yourself and find that self-respect to pick yourself back up and start to reorganize how you start to relive and learn from that shame, learn from the past, you know, and see that you are still worthy of love, that you deserve respect, and that you still deserve forgiveness. You still deserve forgiveness, and continue to rebuild yourself with what you've learned. So take that shame and spin it to a learning opportunity to forgive, love, and respect. And confusion. So if things feel really jumbled, how can you trust your instincts? And getting back to the bare bones and looking at all those external layers. So if there's a lot of commotion around you, if you've been speaking out to a lot of people and there's all these, you know, opinions coming at you. So coming back to the bare bones of you and your own integrity, your own inner instincts, like what is true for you to the core, and how can you set aside those external influences and allow your higher self to speak? Like there's nothing wrong with listening to the inner child. There's nothing wrong with speaking to a mentor, a counselor, your grandmother, for example. But how can your higher wisdom, your higher self speak clearly? And for me, this also means like some movement, some yoga to kind of shift the vibration. For me, emotions and the way my mind works through the body. So if I want to shift my thought process, sometimes that means moving, changing the pace of the energy within yourself. Well, I do hope this served well. Again, this is my own just expression along with the languages of emotions. I hope this helps you to either see how you can find some peace with someone else when those emotions are present, to kind of see what they might be going through and how you can help, or at least the perspective of them, or perspective within yourself, to allow yourself to transform any energies that really are holding you back from being the wonderful human that you are. Thank you for listening.